All right. Well, an official good morning this morning. A good morning to you all. I hope that you all are well. See, the coffee is still kicking in. I'm looking forward to talking with you all about our survey. I see some familiar faces, a lot of people also that I may not know, some organizations I'm not as familiar with. So really excited to have you all and hoping that we can connect not just today, but also after this. If you are not familiar with Volunteer Florida and the resources we have, we really are an entity that's able to support organizations that engage volunteers in a number of ways, including trainings like this. But we also have a number of grants, a few coming up, but a lot of them happen throughout the year and are staggered. And even if it's something that you've missed this year, the opportunity exists to look at the RFP, prepare your organization for applying at another time. So hopefully you'll keep that in mind. I'm going to tell you just very quickly about our organization. So again, if you're just joining us, would love to hear from you. Any pick-me-up, energetic songs that you might have that can help me out today. And in general, I love music. So we would love to hear from you on that. And then certainly if you see something that might be fun for you, definitely take note of it. So for those of you who are on video, raise your hand if you're familiar with Volunteer Florida. Okay, pretty much all of you. Great. Okay, so I'm just very quickly going to do a reminder of what we do. So every state has what's called a State Service Commission. We were established in statute in 1994, and that's when all those commissions were established. And that was a federal direction in order to receive certain streams of AmeriCorps funding. And most simply, we often say that that AmeriCorps is sort of a domestic Peace Corps. It's called national service. And the goal here is to provide direct service in a variety of ways: education, healthy futures for people, economic opportunity, and so on. People get a stipend. They're able to dig into communities in America and are able to just get extraordinary things done. So we're able to distribute those federal dollars. We have a couple of other federal grants. And then we, in general, try to support volunteerism. That's part of where I come in, although all of our departments are doing that to an extent. And we do that through awards. We do that through trainings like this. We do that through just having conversations. We do trainings actually around the state. I speak at a number of conferences. We have Volunteer Connect, if you're not familiar with it, and I'll be sending you all the slides as well as some resources after this, but it is our centralized hub for organizations to post opportunities. And as the public is aware of Volunteer Connect and visits the site, they're able to connect to the opportunities that you all have. And the more opportunities available on the site, the more interested those volunteers are, and we do ongoing promotion of that. So it's essentially the state's official volunteer opportunities platform, and I'll send you information about that. And then we're the lead agency for volunteers and donations before, during, and after disasters. That's very high level, a lot of coordination with our voluntary organizations active in disaster, and I see a number of you all there. And so really a special thing to be able to be at this organization. I've been here 7 years and I love it. And it's wonderful that we have all these sister counterparts in every state that we can connect with, and then that we have just, again, resources, training, opportunities for the field to grow and expand their capacity. Okay, so this survey that we did, what we were really focused on is giving a bigger picture understanding to volunteer engagement leaders about the pulse of volunteerism in the state. And that's not a ranking of where we are, relative to other states and so on. That has to do with the motivations, the barriers. What are the things that could be most helpful for you as you grow your volunteer programs, strengthen your volunteer programs? So AmeriCorps, the federal agency, has interpreted that data. They do that correctly through the census. But there were a couple of things that we noticed just about the reality of what research is, and we wanted to be proactive. And again, not focus on rankings and so on, but really look at the depth and breadth of volunteerism in the state. And so that's what we did. There are a couple of other nerdy research things that I could share, but all of those are in the full report, which was, I believe, was connected on the newsletter that you all received, but I will send it again to you, the overview report, as well as the digging in full report. Which offers more detail if you have an interest in the methodology components. And so here's what we covered. It's quite a bit. I won't go through each one, and we won't have time to do all of this. What I'd love for you all to do, and thank you all for being on mute for the moment, but if something pops up for you, or if you have an answer or a thought about some of what I'm sharing, please speak up. It could be beneficial for the other individuals on the call, those who review the call later, because the recording will be up by next week. And then it's also helpful for me informing the trainings I have and so on in terms of what's going on in our state. Now, the reality is this is research, but there's plenty of other research, right? Nothing is the total sum of exactly what the statistics are for a particular area. So as long as it's rigorous information done by a reliable organization, you can look at multiple things. And so we're just a piece of many different puzzle pieces when it comes to volunteerism and what it looks like in our state. But we believe we really had an opportunity to do something special by providing this to you all. So we're going to move forward real quickly. So here are the regions. I want you to know that in the full report, there are 7 regions. So these 3 are broken down even more so. And what we know is that over half of the counties in our state are rural. So when you combine Hillsborough County, for example, and Orange County with a bunch of rural counties, that's going to shift a little bit what something looks like, right? And that makes sense. So if you want to look more in a more granular way at what's going on and what the pulse is in your community, then feel free to look at that full report. One of the appendices has that information for you. Now, the smaller you get when it comes to your region, the less confidence interval you have, because it's a smaller number of people that have taken the survey. But it's still rigorous, it's still reliable information. The other thing is you all are the experts where you live. So when we look at some of this information, you may say, you know what, that is not true for my organization and what I'm doing. That's also something you want to keep in mind as we look at this, is that what you are experiencing and what that pulse is for you and your volunteers in your community may not look exactly like this, but it also could inform the work that you do. So those are a couple of disclaimers I wanted to share before we moved forward. And so we are going to go to the challenge section before we go to some of the more proactive, positive statistics. So I would love to hear from you what you think one of the top or the top reason is that people are not likely to volunteer. You can put it in the chat, or you're welcome to take yourself off mute. Josie, our CEO, our fearless leader, is on the call. There she is. She is not allowed to respond to any of this. Okay, so she raises her hand. I'm ignoring her, but I will keep my job because it is not technically me dissing my boss. She's just not allowed to do this. Is that okay, Josie? Okay, not feeling like they can make a difference. What else? Time. Not enough time, hard to find online opportunities, commitment to time commitment, cost of living, that's good. Takes up time, work takes up time and energy, finding something they're interested in, these are good. These are really good. Lack of accommodation, time finding opportunities, schedule, transportation. What's great about everything that you all are sharing is that those are some of the indicators we used. So we included almost all of these as things that people could check. Now, one of the things I want you to note is that a lot of these questions, people could pick multiples. So if you see something and it says 15.2 and then 14.9 and you're going, wow, those are all close, it's because people could pick multiple things, and that oftentimes will make those gaps smaller, if that makes sense. I try to kind of give some context for some of these things. All right, who would like to give me a drum roll? I'll do it myself. I don't want to break my laptop. Okay. Oh, not sure what is available out there exactly. Finding age-appropriate opportunities, difficult to reach back to the organization. Let me tell you, one of the basic things I tell people is your website updated. If your last newsletter was 2017, just take it off your site. Make sure your phone numbers are correct, your email addresses, those kinds of things are so important. That's an aside. But drum roll, you all are right. Did not have enough time. And what I want you to think about with some of these is not necessarily that they're barriers, but what opportunity is there. And I've shared this so often, and it is so true. What this means is they have prioritized their time in a different way. So for example, for me, I will say that I'm busy. I have a gorgeous, precious, perfect 5-year-old, and I am so tired. But I watch a zillion hours of Netflix a week. I could be doing some remote volunteer work that's easy for me, that's beneficial for the organization on my laptop in my pajamas after my daughter goes to bed. What I've said is, I'm going to watch Netflix instead. Okay. So what it is how do you create value so that somebody values something over something else? Because yes, transportation, time, being busy, cost of all of those things are true and real. We also have other folks out there, and the issue or the barrier is more about how you have created the value so that they're going to select what you are doing over something else. Okay. Maybe it's, all right, we hang out with the family is going to go volunteer together so that we're meeting the goal of being together as a family and we're volunteering, right? Because I'm enough time, I've got these things to do with my kids and so on. Well, take those 3 hours you were going to go to the pool or something else and move that into a volunteer opportunity that's family friendly. And that's just an example. I'm not saying that that is something that would work for organizations, but just to get you thinking about how you convey value to individuals and families and corporations so that they choose the work that you're doing, the rewarding work that you all do over something else. Okay, so lots of different things you can see there. This is kind of the other set. Again, all of this is in the larger survey report. Now, here's what I want you to have a look at, because we are looking at regional differences. I'm going to go, I know you all kind of only quickly looked at the map, but yes, the slides will be available. Absolutely. I'll PDF, I will send that, some other resources, and the recording to you all in the next week. I usually will say by tomorrow, close of business, and I never do that. So I'd rather say longer amount of time and then, give it to you on Monday, and then you all can be extremely impressed with me. That is my goal. Okay, so yes, slides available. All right, so all of this information by those 3 regions is available, as well as those 7 regions. But this is what we kind of want to look at today. If there's some insight that you have, please let me know. Those of you who are on camera, raise your hand if you were in the Panhandle area, kind of stopped at Leon County. Hey, Jill, love you, mean it. Hey, and how about that north central area? That's Jacksonville all the way through Hillsborough area. Some of you. All right, hi you guys. You got to represent your region there. And then South Florida. How about, oh, look at you guys. Oh, thank you for representing the whole wonderful Sunshine State on this call today. All right, so then you're going to be seeing things that are relevant. We've got a little bit of everyone. If you have a perspective from your region, that would be wonderful for you to share. Okay, so did not have enough free time. That was huge. And a lot of these statistics, they're not statistically different when it comes to the 3 regions. It's, yeah, the whole state is experiencing this particular indicator or kind of way of experiencing volunteerism. And so you'll see that. Now, this one does have a little bit of a kind of that statistical kind of import here, because we look at the 35% that's for North Central Florida is more about that time. And remember, that's your Dixie and your Union and your Hamilton counties, also your Tampas and your Jacksonvilles. Again, that smaller regional information available in the report. But that free time in general is the biggest. But it's interesting to think about what your thoughts are on why people don't have free time in your area. You know, do you think that XYZ happens more in your area and that's why people don't have enough free time? Are people just working and a part of the grind all the time? And that's why, okay, not people who have more than one job exactly do not have enough free time. Do they even go forward to make the effort? That's great. If it's going to be a long application and a long orientation and the only opportunities you have are for 3 hours, 3 days a week, those folks are not going to be able to do that, right? So again, think about your area and anything again that pops up. They might want to relax in their free time or have fun. And guess what? A lot of your opportunities are fun. If you find the right people to enjoy it. Let me tell you, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm an extrovert, and at probably a 12 on a scale from 0 to 10, I can be quiet, but only when I'm sleeping. Poor Jill has been at dinners with me and, you know, has to leave and drive places. And I'm like, sorry, it's your fault for being my friend. And I love people. You put me as a greeter somewhere. Now you have to tell me to keep it to 30 seconds, but that is not laborious for me. But I also love to format a great Excel spreadsheet and can do that at home. So if you are making sure that people recognize that something is fun and meaningful and flexible, maybe you'll be able to pull some of those people in. And I'm not talking about rearranging your volunteer programs. What we're talking about is ideas and thoughts that may be helpful for you based on this research, okay? It's not absolute. Hopefully some of this is helpful. All right, seniors are more active. People are enjoying their retirement. Don't have time to volunteer. We're lots of retirement communities, lots of planned activities for residents. How can you get in there and have volunteering be a planned activity for them? Can you bring in the materials for your hygiene kits on a truck and so on? Have them take a bus. I know those Villages folks and some of those folks have buses and vans and all kinds of gorgeous things that can move them from one place to another and back. For example, a lot of overlapping opportunities in the area. This one is huge. Everybody's competing because they need people for youth sports coaches, or everyone needs people to do a particular kind of school volunteer opportunity, or all your churches or religious entities are doing a particular thing and they're layered. That is a really great insight. Lack of funds to invest on website and social media. I really get that. If any of you were in a rural area, and we have sort of a definition of that, or your organization serves one of the counties that's rural, and again, we have an eligibility list, we will have a grant coming out. It's small, it's $5,000 with a 100% match, called the Rural Community Assets Fund. And it is specifically to help you all generate volunteers in your area. You get to use it for training, for vetting, background checks, things like that, that can be cost prohibitive, but that can help free you up a little bit to pull those volunteers and grow. So if you're not on our volunteer services newsletter, I'll send that link, but that should be going out at the end of July. And again, I'm in Leon County where Tallahassee is, but many organizations cover, about 8 counties in this area. So some of you may be in that spot, even if your actual county where you work is not considered rural. Okay, great. So let's keep going here. Again, nothing that really stands out about these numbers, but just again, to show you some of the things that we covered, right? Not sure what you could do that would be helpful, uncomfortable, volunteering with people you don't know. give that person a solo job. Make sure they have a nice laptop, air conditioning, bottle of water, check in on them, make sure other staff are appreciating them, and let them go to it. Doesn't have to be anything confidential. Let me tell you, some people love to file. I know you don't believe that, but you can say this contributes to the efficiency and the effectiveness of our organization if you can help us organize, right? That's a way to say it. We don't say need help with clerical duties, okay? You got to think about our language, but you got people who would love to do that, but they think everything is everybody together at a soup kitchen, everybody together painting a mural, and they may not be interested in doing that. Okay. So informal volunteering, I'm going to keep trying to move through this. Informal volunteering, take a look at those examples. Okay. So it may not be the formal connection to your organization, but people love and help the people around them. I know our social fabric is fractured and we have so many divides, but look at that number. It's happening, but it doesn't make the news. You know, these are the things that we don't necessarily connect to as volunteering, but it is huge. Grabbing groceries, helping people pay bills, doing homework, maintenance or yard work, all of that. My husband goes to my daughter's preschool on the weekends when they announce they need more sand in the sandbox. The sand moved, cutting down branches so that, you know, when the cars come in, they're not scraping the branches. And half the time I have no idea that he did it. He is like a 2 on the extroversion scale. Just imagine that. Okay, we're still married. It's working out. But he doesn't even tell me sometimes. And then I'll drop my daughter off and the director says, oh, we are so appreciative that Zach came out here for 4 hours last Saturday. And now this is while I'm watching Netflix, and did this great work. Okay, so again, another little example, that is an informal way that he volunteers, okay? But you all can pull people who do that into the work you're doing. Right? It's not a big jump from serving informally to formally if you give people the flexibility and that return on investment. So here it is here. Again, fairly similar. You got a little jump here in South Florida. I want you to keep in mind the cultural components in the study. There's race, household, relationship status, education. A lot of those demographics as well are really important. We talked about seniors. If you're in a really homogenous area, so it's predominantly one particular real subculture and so on, that's going to affect a lot of this. Okay. My parents are from the Caribbean, and informal volunteering, if you asked my dad, he is a deacon at their church. He is doing 30 hours a week of service. And that is actually formal volunteering. If you ask him, he says he doesn't volunteer. Because in the communities and the spaces that we grew up in, that he grew up in, there was so much help, whether it was organizations or informally, it just doesn't register as volunteering. Okay. So formal volunteering, we have a lot of people in the state who are volunteering at least 12 weeks out of the year. And I'll tell you, a lot of that's concentrated at the holidays. A lot of it is in schools. A lot of it is in religious institutions, but it's happening, okay? So I want you to be encouraged with that. Now, here's where we look at the types of organizations. And thank you to those of you who put your name and your organization in the chat. Those of you who joined a little late would love to know who you are and which organization you work with. All right, how many of you are surprised that the type of organization is a religious organization? Surprised? Anybody? Okay, based on the other ones, education, civic, political, being on boards, all of that. Okay, it's interesting. Sometimes our hunches can be proved by data. Sometimes not, but again, you all are the experts ultimately. All right, so 47.2% of individuals who connect with a nonprofit or an association, it's their religious organization. Here's what I want you to keep in mind. What are they doing at those religious organizations, okay? It is not necessarily that they are an usher, right? Here's the kinds of things that they're doing. First of all, I want you to see this, and I think this is not surprising when you think about the Panhandle. One of the largest cities in the Panhandle are Tallahassee and Pensacola. So we are not grouping in a Hillsborough County with a Lake County here, okay? So you're going to get a concentration of rural counties here in the Panhandle, and look how high that religious organization component is, okay? And that is associated, higher involvement in religious activities is associated with a lot of rural areas, okay? So you see there's a big difference there. Anybody sense that connection? Anyone in a rural area and see that? Because a lot of times the church, or whatever the faith-based institution is the center and the hub of the social work that happens, the connections that happen in the community. Does anybody see that where they live? Ooh, public safety organizations, you'll see that in a second. Or not see it necessarily. Jill? Oh, were you waving to somebody else? Okay, so something to think about. Let's see, what would they be? Yeah, so, yep, I bet you do. Jill is in the Panama City, right? Bay County. A lot of gatekeeping within. Okay, this is huge. Thank you for mentioning that. The gatekeeping within religious organizations. Yes, your surrounding areas. Jill is in the Panhandle. Very much something that we see. The gatekeeping part is really interesting and something that's very real. Here's what people are doing in these areas. Now, this is Florida-wide still. This is back to Florida-wide. Guess where people, now it's their food banks, but religious organizations often have a food bank. Religious organizations are often collecting clothing items and so on that that people need. I told you the amount of prison ministry, the amount of collection of items my dad does, for example, as a deacon, really significant. And he probably 10 hours a week is doing prison ministry work and bringing items that are needed, halfway houses and so on. That's happening through the church. Not always, but you've got some of these things. Now you see the professional or management assistant, that's our boards and committees, right? A lot of those folks don't even think of themselves as volunteers. They refer to your volunteers in your organization as those volunteers. To get them more connected, remember to make sure they know they're right there on that same level of being someone supporting your organization, because that helps them see your volunteers and you all a little bit differently. Okay, so you can see some of these other ones here. I was surprised when we got the data about that the tutor teach kind of mentoring youth was smaller for me. That was interesting. Okay, so here's what we've got in our regions. So the preparing food, collecting food, I think that that correlates to the religious entities, for example, in the Panhandle. Oftentimes, those groups are collecting, preparing, distributing, serving food, supporting persons experiencing homelessness, and so on in their communities, right? So then, interesting, you see engaging in music, performance, other artistic activities, and then engaging in general labor, supply, transportation for people, all of that happening. And you see, again, some of that bigger jump. A lot of this has to do with the social networks in the area, right? In Tallahassee, it's not a huge city, but let me tell you, anytime I go to Target, I see 3 people I know, right? And I see so-and-so's cousin and so-and-so's cousin's ex-husband's friend. And I see, you know, so-and-so's baby sister, and I can't believe how grown they are. Josie just today was like, so-and-so has a grandbaby. And I was like, I went to church with them. She's like, here's how I know them. You get a lot of that in some of your smaller areas, right? transporting people, some of those personal things, those are happening in some of those more connected areas. Now, all of this, what it means is just work with what you have in your area. So I'm saying some of these things are kind of more true in the Panhandle. That doesn't mean they can't more so be true in your area. Or what it means is that maybe you focus on a different aspect of some of these things. Or your religious organization, great point about the gatekeeping. But another example from my sweet dad, I think you could tell I adore him. Love my mom too, but a bit of a daddy's girl. He, for example, they do a blessing of the animals. Okay. Guess who's there? The Humane Society is there. The Leon County Shelter is there. They are providing education and support. And I guarantee you some of those individuals connect to opportunities through something like that, right? They did an article in the paper. They have kind of a religious section, faith section once a month or something. They did an article about it. Tons of people showed up. If you can connect with people in some of these organizations, these religious institutions, and partner and connect with them, especially if there are individuals part of those organizations who can vouch for you, right? And you're not just cold calling, you may be able to develop some partnership opportunities that you didn't have before. And I am not completely all-starring religious organizations. We're just looking at the data and seeing that that's pretty significant, okay? All right, who invited you to show up? I want you to pause on this because a lot of people say they found it themselves, but we're gonna see an interesting shift in just a second, okay? If you look at friend and family member and you combine those two, it would be the highest. So if we connected friends, family, roommates, people you know well, that grouping would be most important. Again, with people informally volunteering and staying connected to the people they know and care about, that's where it's happening, right? It's interesting because people talk about their barriers being not being able to find things, but then also that they found things. So depends on how you phrase a question, what options are there, and so on. So here's what we have here. Now, guess what in the Panhandle that other organization or group is that person originally received that invitation to volunteer from? Your religious institutions, a lot of the time, okay? Again, not trying to elevate that because we had a lot of other groups that people participate in. But it's interesting to link some of these things together. Correlation, not saying they're caused, I'm conjecturing on a lot of this, okay? Very careful not to be absolute about these things because that can get you in trouble. So want to make sure you all kind of get that whole picture. But you see that reference to another group, organization, the finding it ourselves. Look where that's happening. South Florida, very concentrated urban area. Certainly lots of connections and family ties and cultural connections there. But when you start to get busy, people are having to figure some of this stuff out on their own, right? And I see Miami Beach, sir. Hello. Irene in the house. All right, I apologize, Irene, if that was too, I apologize to the rest of you. I just got very excited. Again, the 12 on the extroversion scale. I'm sorry, Josie. Okay, so reasons for that initial involvement, right? If you aggregate it, 44.7 would be a family member, friend, roommate. Your existing volunteers are some of your best ambassadors, okay? How many of your volunteers could give a 15-second speech on what your actual mission is? How many of them could answer 3 basic questions that someone asked? They said, oh, well, I don't really have time. You know, are there any opportunities that take up less time than yours? I have no idea. So if they, excuse me, in conversation, this has happened for me so many times, are able to convey some information, and look where they also found things out, word of mouth. That is those same folks. But your folks have to be prepared, weave it into what you're doing. Success stories, or you know what, it's not just what my activity is that I do at the organization. It's how that activity benefits the community, benefits the mission, and benefits me, right? Google search, yes. Oh gosh. God, I have a great meme I'll have to send you about Google searches. Good gosh. Okay, so there's that initial involvement, family friend. We see that a little bit higher in the Panhandle where some of those connections, but they're all still high, right? We're talking minimally 4 in 10 people. All right, who would make you more likely to volunteer? Here's confirming a lot of that. Being asked by who? Friend, family member, okay? Ooh, YouTube video, and the person I just talked on the phone found it on Google search. There you go. The social media, the websites, the work that you all do communications wise. The reason I brought up the Rural Community Assets Fund is because some of those dollars can be used for social media ads, for like email platforms like Constant Contact or MailChimp, things like that, because we know those things are important. And then we have our Volunteer Generation Fund, which is for bigger entities. It's not just for rural communities, but we try to support those things that we know are barriers for you. So we're excited that our foundation is providing this mini grant. Okay, so friends, family. Yep, here we go. Easy access to information about volunteer opportunities, locations, and activities. Again, that is updating everything you have. Instagram is free. I will go ahead and tell you, I'm 41 years old and I'm still savvy in Instagram. My mom knows how to use emojis. Just because she's a senior doesn't mean she's technologically disabled, or, you can find people and don't have to box them up and what they can do. I can hang out with those college students when it comes to Tumblr or Instagram or LMNOP or QRS. I've got HTML background because I did public relations. There's all these things that I have, my skill sets, that if I saw something, it wouldn't be difficult for me to do. It might be difficult for you, or you may not have the time for it, but someone else can help you with that. I just had an intern who was 16, was part of a work study opportunity that she had, or an exposure opportunity in the spring. She did a more competent, delightful job than all the college students I had who were lovely, right? 16 years old, right? You never know. Went through this research study and pulled things out for me, okay? So helping people get that social teen cert. Oh, I love it. Be prepared to sit with someone who is not tech savvy and take them through the process. Exactly. You can have that on your website. Online application, unsure how to complete it, give us a call, email us. Would love to walk you through it. You can have volunteer leaders who help with that because they've been through the process and they're the ones that call and say, here's how to complete it. It doesn't have to be you. All right, so I know want to make sure we don't run out of time. Okay, so anything standing out to you all, thoughts about your community, your organizations? Would really like to hear from you about how you're experiencing motivations, barriers in your communities, what kind of resources you wish you had. And I will call people out because that is what my teachers did in high school. And so I'm going to have to do that with you all as well. But would love to hear motivations your volunteers have. Do you survey what the motivations are for volunteers? I have lots of that kind of information. If you're looking for kind of a satisfaction survey, a few questions you can ask a volunteer about how things are going. Free SurveyMonkey account, put it together. It can be anonymous, but do you know why your volunteers are volunteering? Do you know why they leave if they haven't been around yet? You all have that information. Looking into a survey soon. Great, Jessica. Let me know. Feel free to email me if you want a couple of examples of that. Service hours, yes. Connect themselves to their community, long history with, yes. Wonderful. Creating that culture of service with our students is huge. I had some really extraordinary experiences doing my Bright Futures hours that were, I think really formative for me. Would love that info also. Perfect. If you all will email me, I will put my email address in the chat. It's pretty simple. And you also got that email from me and Will. But if there's something you want to have, more resources, let me know and I will get those to you. And some of these questions I'll just go ahead and send to everybody, like this survey, but email me so that I don't forget to look at the chat and then forget to give you what you need if you'll send me something. So thoughts you have, please share those in the chat or come off mute. If anything's standing out, if there are things that you see are barriers in your community, would love to hear about those things. So I'll give you some time to be thinking about that. While I guess maybe I should put myself on mute when I do that, in case it sounds slurpy. Okay. All right. Well, feel free to put anything in the chat if you'd like. So again, with motivations, let's look at one of these that is important. Availability. Oh, would like to connect for further recruiting 55 plus. Now, is it Fatima or Fatima? First or second? Or I might have Fatima. Okay, at least I threw that one out. Fatima, where do you live?
Hillsborough County.
Interesting. What's the organization?
Redefiners World Languages.
Ah, so is it teaching?
It's tutoring, yes.
Tutoring, okay.
Yes, yes. We're looking for seniors, actually, 55 plus for one of our programs, okay?
Okay.
To tutor kids K to 5th grade.
Okay, excellent.
We're having problems.
Okay, well, I have some thoughts. I don't know if you're familiar with Seniors in Service, but they have senior core. You do? Okay, good.
We're partners, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay,
yeah.
well, we could certainly chat some more about that.
Absolutely.
55 is not a senior, Jill. That's what I'm saying. Go, Josie. Go, Jill. Go.
We're not. Yeah.
I know. I guess my parents started getting AARP magazine at like 50, and my mom threw it away. She was like, no, this is unacceptable. I'm not even having this on my kitchen counter. Now she wasn't militant about it, but I remember I happened to be at the house and I fell out laughing. She was like, nope, not doing it. Unless it's a discount, I am not reading this magazine. Oh, I get it. 55 and better. Exactly. Love that phrase. Now that I'm on the other side, love it. Well said. All right, let's see. Oh, hi, Karen. Assisting organizations with skill-based volunteers is an issue. Okay. Jessica, which organization are you with?
I'm with the United Way.
Which United Way?
Volusia, I know there's many. Volusia, Flagler County, sorry. And I'm fairly new. I started back in November, so I'm still just really diving in and starting to build it up. But skill-based is really, I'm starting to notice that's one of the bigger issues because a lot of the organizations here, they need like fundraisers or people to help them write grants and things like that. And I've seen where others, have that base, but I don't know how to build that.
Got it. And that's for your programs? Like, is that because you need volunteers for VITA and so on? Or is that because you're talking about those organizations recruiting?
Yes.
Okay.
To help the some of the ones that I help work with locally. And then to even put it out there for people to like how to even make it a I guess you could say appealing to be volunteer for that organization as a skill base, with that skill set.
Sure. Okay, that's good. And actually, we have a training in August about connecting with businesses and their employee engagement programs to feed your volunteer programs, right? Corporation says, or a business says, we'd love to get our volunteers connected, not really sure what to do, or they're not doing that, but more and more employees are expecting that. How do you connect? And so we're going to have employee program, corporate social responsibility panelists who can talk about that, right? Because that's a really great feeder, and those are some skills-based folks that you can have. The other thing to keep in mind is that, and I always use this example, but there's a gentleman who worked for the Jacksonville, who volunteered with the Jacksonville Humane Society. And he was, now, I would say even that you can extrapolate this out, right? So sometimes people don't want to do what they do all day at work. Some people do, and some people have skills that you didn't realize they had. So if somebody comes in to volunteer with something and you're looking at skills-based volunteers, the person who is doing that work, walking the dogs, could be an accountant. Are you somehow surveying people to figure out what their other skills are? Not just what they're interested in, because sometimes if you say, wow, we really need some financial, we need some support with, accounting work we're doing, or whatever the case is, people will be willing because they're already invested in your organization. They're supporting your work. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, this person is this incredible blank. And then you say, yeah, we are so thankful for what you're doing. Do you think you could contribute to whatever the thing is? All of you have skill stacks, and I bet you have things that you could offer that people wouldn't realize, because your main job or your main volunteer opportunity is not that. So the quick example, this gentleman, Wayne, who again volunteered for Jacksonville's Humane Society, retired civil engineer, right? They don't really need any engineer support, but an extraordinary wildlife photographer. I'm talking Alaska, the grizzly bear catching the salmon in midair, National Geographic level work. And he just he was on a panel that we had. I'd asked one of our grantees if they had a volunteer they might want to ask about it. He takes photographs, gorgeous photographs of donors with their pets, and Jacksonville Humane Society would sell those. He did that during the pandemic, didn't have to be close to those individuals, right? I would consider photography a skills-based thing, but enter whatever skill you want into what Wayne did, enter whatever profession Wayne had for someone, but are you looking at their skill stack and their experiences when they come in? There are so many people who are unassuming or really quirky like I am. And then I see, oh, wait, you need help with this? I actually am good at that. And the person goes, oh, I didn't even think to ask my existing volunteers whether they might want to do something else, and not add to their plate, just pitch it. Where they might know people. Again, that's with them being your best ambassadors. All right, so we are almost done. These are great. Let's see. Struggled to get volunteers during the last 2 summers. Now that high school students write futures 1 year round, volunteers go on vacation during the summer. How to gain more volunteers during the summertime, seasonal. Karen, remind me which organization you're with and where. Because again, just like this research, it's very specific to the work that you do and where you live and what the pulse is there.
I'm with Collier County Museums, and
That's
we're
right.
in Naples, so down in Collier.
Right. And so you have a very specific population there that you are working with. I would love to, go ahead.
Yes, so primarily most of our volunteers are seasonal.
Mhm.
And this is the second summer now that I have struggled because the high school students have kind of filled in those spaces during the
Mhm.
summertime. And now with Bright Futures allowing them to get credit
Work.
while they're working, that has really put a huge damper on our summers.
And I had no idea that that happened. That is really interesting. And I'm going to have to think on this, Karen, but let's chat.
Yeah,
some
there was
about
an
this.
article, I think it was last June. So I think
Wow.
it's been over a year. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm certainly going to have to look at that, touch base with our partners at DOE. That is really fascinating. We should definitely chat some about that, because I could see how that would be a big shift for you and a lot of other organizations as well.
Davita,
So,
that passed,
yeah.
that issue of allowing them to do that, I think it passed, it was a legislative change. And so I believe it passed this time around to allow them to have a work requirement as opposed to volunteering. But
Right.
you also have in that area, I think you have some law schools, a law school that's there, it's Ave Maria, and you have people taking summer classes and things of that nature. So if you're looking more for high school students as opposed to maybe graduate level students, that may also be able to help you in the Naples area.
Josie, that's a great point, and I will continue to think on that, Karen. I appreciate you bringing that up and bringing that to our attention in general. So what would make you likely to volunteer or continue volunteering? Okay, look at the bottom there. Participating with groups or friends, family members, or other groups. So you may be seeing a trend here. Look at the Panhandle, North Central, and then of course South Florida there. Another high one there. Ease to access information about opportunities, locations, and activities, which we talked about. Excuse me. And then more flexibility in scheduling or timing. We also have some data on in-person versus remote volunteering. I only had an hour, so I didn't include all of our indicators or anything like that, but interesting information about that. You can look at that by county. I think we last year, our volunteer engagement leadership training convening, we had somebody who did a session on remote volunteering. I can send you the link for that. In October's, we have a big convening every 2 years and a slightly smaller four session training, one each, Monday of the month. This last one was 13 different sessions. They're all free. We pull in and hire, contract with national experts and panelists to do this work, but she had a whole session about remote volunteering for volunteer engagement leaders. So I'll send that along to you all, because if this is kind of correct, keeping your thoughts open. And I know some of you probably are thinking, we have nothing that could be remote. If you spend a little time on it, it may open up something. And I'm not talking about busy work, right? We don't need to create opportunities just to create opportunities. I'm talking about maybe being able to brainstorm ways that people can serve that you maybe hadn't thought of before. So I'll send that recording to you all, may be helpful. Okay. Last one. Why do people volunteer? This is the Florida statistic. Enriches their lives, brings them joy. Are you conveying that to people? It can be tricky with some of the work you do if it's kind of more intense. It still is something that can be fulfilling for people. Ask your existing volunteers why they volunteer. Sometimes it's really insightful to see. Some people really just need the social connection, and not just people who are older, right? We know there's so many statistics about isolation. There's plenty of that with students and people of all ages because of social media and not actually connecting with people. Some people like external recognition. Some people want the plaque. Some people want, if they're doing a great job and they don't have negative motivation, problematic motivations, the reasons why people volunteer are interesting to know because of the language you can use to help recruit, but also how you support them, how you reward them. I am, like I said, a nerd. If I get to learn more about the organization and some of the research behind the work they do and how it's evident, I would love that if someone sat down with me, and that would be a reward for me, right? We have to get to know our volunteers to figure that out. But you see these other ones contribute to the community, cause they believe in, pay it forward, use their skills and abilities in a hands-on way, connect with like-minded people, those religious or spiritual reasons. And very similarly, the religious or spiritual reasons happen to be higher in Florida Panhandle. As you go down the state and the areas are less rural, a lot of times that's how these statistics go in terms of being a little bit lower. But help the cause they personally believe in is huge, contribute to the community, enriching lives. So all those are very high, at least half for every one of your regions, right? But have a look at that. What's your messaging like? Is it, we really need your help, it's important, we really need it, we really need it? Or is it, here's how this benefits you, right? We don't need to plead and beg. Well, sometimes we do, but you have something to offer as an organization, right? It's a two-way thing, making sure that your messaging shows the strong, powerful, impactful work and mission of your organization, so that people recognize that this is beneficial for them, right? As much as it is for you, I think is important. So I am so appreciative of your time. You were probably worried when I talked about extroversion and not knowing how to stop talking that we would go way over and then you'd have to feel bad to get off because you have another meeting and you don't want to hurt my feelings. Anyway, I am at 10:59. I don't know what you, oh, it says 11 on my iPhone. Anyway, thank you all so much. I am excited to get you these resources. Again, we have August with our corporate connection to nonprofits, government entities, and volunteerism in September. And then we'll have our bigger volunteer engagement leadership series. We've got our grants that are coming out, some that are already here. I know some of you, like Jill, are pros when it comes to being connected to us. But we have so many ways that we can support you all. And it's our pleasure and our joy to do it. I mean, we statutorily get to help you all. And that's one of the many reasons I love being here. So this is kind of what I do. I'll share more with you about Volunteer Connect. We would really like you to post if you haven't. But I try to do relationship building, those training and resources, which I'll send to you, and really just enjoy getting to be with you all. As Jill knows, I love Mexican food and hanging out for dinners, and I get a $19 per diem. So if I'm ever in your area, that is what we will be doing. I mean, I like other types of food, but still. So I will be in Miami next week, Irene. So you'll get an invite about that, but we'll be doing it's a survey discussion. So it's a little bit of the same thing, but we get to be at a fabulous Hilton and you get to meet some of your other colleagues in the field. So we'll be there. Ooh, back to Tampa. See, I've been there twice. Now I know where you all live, which sounds kind of creepy, but I know where you live, so I can again have you all visit. So anyway, thank you all so much for your time this morning. I appreciate you. I genuinely appreciate the work that you all do. And please feel free to email if you have any anything that I can support you with. Polk County, that is on my way so many places. I got to do Alachua soon. Polk County, I need to get down there. So, and I just love Publix. So if I can just kind of be around the mecca of Publix, I would just be so excited. Annette, you'll get an email from me with all these resources, but let me send it to you all. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and please stay in touch. Hopefully I'll see you on some of the next trainings. All right, you all take care. Bye-bye.